Hello, welcome to another session of Excel for Work, our virtual training program dedicated to helping you work smart and be productive at the office. In today's session, we're going to be continuing with how to analyze data with pivot tables in Excel. So join me and let's continue from where we dropped off in the last video. So we've taken a look at what pivot tables are. We've looked at how they make it easy for you to summarize data in Excel. Now, we're going to continue from where we dropped off. So we looked at how pivot tables help you group dates into years, into quarters, into months, and then it breaks down a value, in this case annual salary, into those groups. One exciting thing about pivot tables is as you can summarize data into simple reports, you can still get a breakdown of what the values in your reports stand for. For example, here we have 199,848 for March. We probably want to know what makes up these values, who and who are being paid this much. So if you double click on that amount, so 1, 2, it shows you, okay, that for that particular amount, it's being paid to John Dan, an Asian male of the age 48. So you can easily determine who is being paid this amount. This sheet is dedicated to just explaining what this amount, which is 199,848, represents. Okay, so you can delete it when you are done. So I'm going to right click and delete. Yes. You can go through whatever figure you're interested in. You can also select the figure, right click, right, and select what show details, right, and it's going to show you how that figure came about. So for this particular figure, which was 364,017 as annual salary, this is the breakdown of that figure. So PivotTable doesn't just summarize data, but it also gives you the chance to drill down and find out how this figure came about. So I'm going to delete this, Alt HDS, and take that away as well. So we've looked at how we can now drill into pivot table. Now let's even look at something much more exciting when it comes to pivot tables. So I'm going to take out the various heat hierarchies from my pivot table, and I'm going to put in job title. So I'm going to drag in job title over here. Let's change this to that. Great. So we have the various job titles and we have the annual salary being paid. Now what we want to look at is we want to see which job title receives the most and which job title receives the least. So how do we do that? We can basically sort the amounts, okay? But first, let's format these amounts. So I'm going to double click on this, right? Come to number format, come to number, okay? I want this to be 0 and then 1000 separated, and click OK. Yeah, okay, good. Now I can sort this. So right click on any of the amounts, sort from largest to smallest, and you have this. So vice president is receiving the most, followed by director, senior manager, manager, senior, and so on and so forth. Right now, if you're tasked to show just the top 5 or top 10 most paid jobs in this organization, okay, what it will mean is that you just want to show only the top 10. You don't want the others showing. So what you do is you right click on any of these job titles, and then when you've right clicked on this, you're going to filter, okay, then you come to top 10. Want to filter to top 10, so select top 10, and this is what it's going to ask. So show top 10. You can also decide to do top or bottom, the number of values, so it's not restricted to just 10. You can do 5, you can do 20. Items, so we have items, you can do percentage, you can do sum. So if you want the percentage, those that make highest percentage, and then if you have different values or different fields in your value section, not just annual salary, you can also explore those ones. So when I click top 10 items, it gives me this. So these are the top 10 job titles, right? Now this is going to be reflective of whatever the data says. So if there's changes in the data, it's going to reflect. For instance, analysts is over here that has that's 3 million. If I come here, let's look for someone who's probably not there, or let's just take analysts and let's just increase this by 80 million. So this person's annual salary, I'm going to increase this to 800. So 80 million. See this? Now if I come back to my pivot table, the analyst is 2 million. Come to data, refresh all. See, analyst comes first as 82 million for vice president. Okay, if another person is introduced or undo, so I've undone this, I'm going to undo this as well. I want to bring a completely new job title over here. So let's see which job title can we take in here. Okay, HRIS analyst, human resource. Let's increase this by 5 million. Okay, so you come here, stand your pivot table, go to data. Now I explained the difference between refresh all and refresh, right? Refresh all is all your pivot tables. If all your pivot tables rely on that data, refresh all is a safe bet. But if it's just that pivot table, you can just do refresh and find to refresh. And then you have HRIS analyst here, 5 million over here. And then the last person that was qualitative control is no more here, right? So this top 10 will always respond to changes in the data once the data is refreshed. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. I'm going to undo this as well to come back to my figure. Great. So top 10, that's how it looks like. You can also do bottom 10. So copy this. I'll paste this here. Alt HOI to make it auto fit. Come here. Okay. That's another alternative. Rather than right clicking on the values, you can select the filter button. Come to values filter, top 10, and then I can change this to bottom 10. Right. So these are the least paid job titles in the organization, and these are the most paid job titles in the organization. So that's what you can use pivot tables for. You can use pivot tables to look at the top 10 and your bottom 10 or bottom n of the data sets. Okay, so we're going to clear this, Alt HEA, and it's gone. Okay, now let's look at other things we can explore with our pivot tables. I'm going to take off the filter. Okay, so come here and clear filter. Good. And then we have the entire data set over here, showing us all the job titles and their annual salary. Now, there are lots of things you can actually do pivot tables when it comes to analyzing your values in the value section. I'm going to drag the annual salary again into the value section. So I'll come here and bring this here. So I have two sets of annual salaries. And I'm going to use this to do some calculations. So I'm going to right click on this. Okay. When it comes to show value as. Now, show value as is very useful to when it comes to expressing your values in percentages or in something else other than the normal values you have, right? So over here, for instance, I can show value as a percentage of the grand total. So how much is each job title receiving from the annual salary total, right? So you can see that the vice president alone is taking 20.61% of what the annual salary, followed by the director taking 18%, and then managers taking about 13%. So you take the top five is alone is receiving 67% of the annual salary compared to what the rest of the organization. So this is actually a very good way of quickly analyzing and seeing insight into your data. Okay, now over there we also have a percentage of the column total, percentage of the row total, right? So column total is if you have columns. Now let me see if I can show this. I'm going to copy these data sets and place it here. Alt HOI. Right? Great. Good. Now, if this data, let's see if I can put gender here. Bringing gender over here. All right. And then let me take one of the annual salaries out. Good. So I have male and female. So I have this. I'm going to first not show this at all as anything, so no calculation. So we have this, we have female as its value and male as its value. Now if I right click on this and I come to show value as column total, okay, so what is going to happen is that these are the totals, right? And it's going to show what percentage of this makes up this, and then what percentage makes up this total, right? So it's dealing with it for the various columns for female and for males. I think it would be better if I reduce. So let me take job title out and let me put something that is smaller, like ethnicity. Good. So it fits into the page so you can see. So Asians over here, these are the totals. So female and male, that's a column total, right? If I right click this, I go back to show no total. Now I can also express this as row totals. So when I come here to row totals, what this means is that in this case, it's now looking at it this way. So female and male is showing you the row totals, right? So female is giving 49.73%, male is giving 50%, and then the grand total, if I bring in grand total, show grand total for rows on this, you get to the 100% over here, right? So all these are showing you what you are getting for each ethnicity, male and female, the percentage breakdown. But the first one was looking at just for female, the percentage would break down. All right, so now let's look at the other options we have available. I'm going to right click this and show value as, no calculation. Okay, and let's look at the other options we have. So when I right click on this, I come to show value as. We also have showing this as a percentage of, right? So base field, you can select a particular field. Okay, let's say I want gender. All right, and then you can look at which particular gender do you want to show this as a percentage of. Okay, so you want to show this as percentage of maybe the previous one, male or female. Now let's look at a much more insightful one. Let's do ethnicity, and let's say we want to show everything as a percentage of Asians. So I click OK. So Asians, male and female will be 100. The percentage of blacks compared to Asians is 19%. For females, and then for males is 14%. For Caucasians is 63%. For Latinos is also 63.53%. Right. So compared to Asians, these are the percentages these ethnicities would have. Now for the next one, what we're going to be looking at is percentage of parent row total and percentage of column row total. For these, what you have to ensure is that you have more than one value in your rows area. Okay, so let me introduce another field in the row area. I'm going to bring in country. So let's put country over here. So what this means is that we have Asian, we have black, we have Caucasian, and the various countries. I'm going to take off the calculations for now. So we have to adjust the values over here. Let me increase this so it doesn't look too clumsy. So Alt H O W for column width, Alt H O W, and I'm increasing this to 12 so that it looks at least big enough for us to see. Great. So what we want to do now is want to see what these values. So we want to see how much China and United States, the percentage wise, it makes of the Asian total. We want to see the United States makes of the Asian and black total, Caucasian, and then Latino, right? So when you right click here, you come to values and you see percentage of parent row title. So how much does each particular country make in the parent row title? When you click this, it shows you very quickly that, okay, so for Asian total, about 52% of Asians are coming from China, and then 47% are coming from the United States, right? For blacks, 100% of them are coming from the United States. For Caucasians, 100% of them are coming from the United States. For Latinos, 55.62% are coming from Brazil, and then the rest are coming from the United States. Now, it also shows you how much these various Asians, okay, so various ethnicities make up the distribution makeup. So here you have 40.62%, we have 7.76, we have 25.82, we have 25.81. When you sum this up, you should get 100%. That shows you the distribution on the ethnicity side, and then this shows you the breakdown on the country side. Same goes if you do it the other way around. So if you right click on this, come to show value as column total. Now this is summing up this way, right? So for China, male and female, so male and female, so on and so forth. That gives you the distribution on the column side. That's on the gender. So that's for parent totals. So we've looked at that. Now let's come to show value as. Now you can also show value as a difference, not necessarily just a percentage, or a difference. So for this purpose, I think I'll come back to my initial one. Okay. So let's say we want to see the difference in the values, okay, as the particular salaries come down from one job title to another. So I'll come here to show value as. I come to difference from. So what's the base field? Okay, so this is the base field job title. I can select a base item. So I can say that, okay, so I want you to show me the difference between the vice president's salary and every other job title. So when I come to this section, I select base item being the vice president. I click OK. Right. So for here, because it's the same, I get 0. Here it shows that the vice president. Let me see if I can format this. So double click on this. Number formats. Come to number. Use this. Click this. Click OK. Good. Okay. So it shows you that the vice president is receiving 2,526,797 more than the director. Right? It shows you how much each person is receiving compared to the director's salary of 23 million. Right? So it shows you as you move down over here. You can also look at this and say show value as a difference from, right? I'll say the previous. I want to see how much you're receiving compared. So in this case, we have account receivables over here. Then we have analysts over here. And it shows you that analyst receives 1 million more than the account receivable. And so on and so forth. It shows you who receives more than the other, and so on and so forth. So you can also use this to show the difference between one level or the other, right? A good way of using or showing this particular analysis is when you are using a year or date field to show the trend. So if I take job title out and I put, let's say I put year over here, rules. Good. I'm going to take this up. So show value as, so do calculation, right? I come back here and I say show value as difference from previous. I'll click OK. Good. So this is actually a very good illustration of showing the value as a difference from the previous year. So in 1992, this amount we paid. 1993, is it? And then as the year goes by, you see the differences in the payments in annual salary, right? So this is actually a very good demonstration. You can also decide to see, okay, how much annual salary have we paid compared to what we paid in the first year of 1,105,000. That's where you make 1992 your base item, and then everything is being compared to that, right? So that's the show value as difference from. Now you can also do a percentage. So if I wanted to do this, so 1992 over here as my base item, this time I'm showing it as a percentage. So 1992 over here, it shows you that in 1993 we paid 69.12% less than what we paid in 1992. And then as the year goes by, we are comparing all the years to 1992. As this time, as a percentage. We're not looking at just the difference, we're looking at it as a percentage. Is that okay? So all these things, if you had to do them without pivot tables, you need to do a lot of calculations. But then pivot tables can do this for you with ease, right? It's just clicking and then you're selecting what you're actually looking for. So show value as, look at that. Now running totals, okay? So running totals is when you want to actually sum up the values from a beginning period to an ending period. So I come here to running totals and I click OK. What happens is that over here I have the same value over here. It shows me in 1992 and 1993, this is the amount that was paid. Okay, this is the amount, 270,946 is over here. So this running totals actually shows you what the totals was every year. So every year it shows you what the total amount of annual salary was from the beginning of the year to that period. Running totals, fantastic analysis you can do with that. Okay, so I'll select this, right click, show value as. Same goes for the percentage of running totals. This time, so you're just doing it as a percentage. And now you can also rank. You can also rank. So if I say rank from smallest to largest, so against high here, it shows me, okay, which was the least amount we paid. So it shows that in 1993 we paid the least. That's the first. The second is what? 1995. Third was what? 1992. And then the highest was 2021. Right? Good. So this ranking from least to smallest. We can do the reverse of that and rank from largest to smallest. Okay, ranking from largest to smallest, meaning that in this case, this will have the least amount and then this will have the first amount. Okay, so in some cases, you probably want to rank your values to show which one is first, which one is second, so on and so forth. Pivot tables give you the avenue to actually do something like that. Right? Great. So that's for ranking. Now, the next one we're going to be looking at is actually a very interesting one, index. Index. We're going to be looking at index and we're going to try and understand what the index is for. Okay, so it says compare the cells in the pivot table by creating an index to show each cell's relative importance to the grand total. Okay, I'm going to come back to my guy over here and use this. So I'm going to take off country out of this guy. And then I'm going to show this as no calculation for the first. So we have something like this. Good. So now what we're going to do is, to make this simple, I'm going to change the fields. I'm going to put gender out here, put ethnicity in columns, and then I'm going to put department right here. Good. Now let's take a scenario like this. We're looking at our departments over here. We're looking at our ethnicity over here. So let's say, hypothetically, right, as an HR person, you are supposed to probably free some funds. So you need to do the hard work of letting some people go, right? Now, you need about roughly between 1.8 million to $2 million, $2 million, right? So we're looking for 1.8 to $2 million. Let me just format these numbers. I like my numbers formatted. It makes it easy for me to actually appreciate what I'm looking at. So let me click OK. Click OK over here. Good. So we're looking for between 1.8 million to $2 million dollars. So all the values that fall within that range, 1.8 to 2 million. I'm going to highlight them. 1.8 to 2 million. Let's just say 1.8 to 2 million and 1. Okay, so 2 million, 2,100,000, 2,100,000. I just want to see all the values that fall in that range, 1.8 to 2 million and 1. All right, so we have these three values. So I'm coming here to, and then let's highlight these. Now you realize that these three values actually fall within the range you're looking out for. So 1.8 all the way to 2,100,000. You have these three values falling within that category. Now you have the hard decision of deciding which of these three should I actually release. Index is actually a good tool to help you make that decision. So I'm going to copy this, bring this down here, and I'm going to change this to the index. So show value as index. Okay, good. Now over here, what you can see is it's showing you the relative importance of each cell to the grand total. Okay, I'm going to explain how it's calculated and then what it means. So it shows that in these three values, so 1, 2, 3, okay, these are their importance to the grand total. If you take them off, compared to their particular groups on the row level and the column level, this is how important they are. So you realize that even though these values are little, so 1.8, 1.8, compared to this 2 million, these two values are much more important to their grand total than what this value is to its grand total. So in terms of releasing funds, if you need to let a class go, this particular groups, so the 1.8 here you have over here for the black, both HR and IT, are much more important to the black and their various departments than this particular amount accounting Latino. So if you had to make the hard, painful decision of letting a group go, per the numbers, if you let the Latino accounting group go, the impact on your grand total, or in terms of your HR distribution, in terms of salary, will be much more little than letting any of these two go. But I realize that when you look at the values, the impact doesn't look, or the difference doesn't look that much. But when you look at the impact on the grand totals, it's very large, right? So index allows us to make such decisions, allows us to know how important the value is to hit the grand total. Now let's look at how this is calculated. Okay, so first, calculating it, you need two values. Okay, so I'm going to put some colors over here to make it easy for me to distinguish them. So there's a box number 1. Okay, so for box number 1, you need to select the value or the cell, multiply it by the grand total. So what I'm saying is equal to this particular cell multiplied by the grand total. Okay, so that's for box number 1. We need to show this in its entire form. So control 1, come to custom. I can use this, click OK. So that's the value I'm getting. Doesn't really make much sense. Now we're going to select or calculate for box number 2, which is equal to use a column grand total multiplied by the row grand total. So for Latino, this is the row grand total and this is column grand total. You multiply the two. Okay, same thing over here, control 1, custom, come here, click OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to divide. So to get the result, we're going to divide. So equal to the blue box divided by the green box. Okay, and there you have it. Okay, so this is how the index are calculated. Okay, so this multiplied by that, by the grand total, and then this column grand total by the row grand total. And then when you divide the two, it gives you the index. Now this index symbolizes how important that particular cell is to the grand total, right? So compared to the other two, the Latino is not as important as the other two. So if you need to sacrifice, you can take this out, right? So that is for show value as. We've looked at all these examples. We've looked at what they mean and how you can use them. Now let's explore something else. So currently, I'm going to take these out. I think they've served their purpose. So I'm taking all of them out. Delete this as well to take them off. Great. Okay. Now when I stand in here, a pivot table field list isn't showing. So to bring this, I'm going to right click here. I'll say show field list. Great. So now my field list is back in. Okay, I can take off one of the annual salaries over here. Good. Now in our data set, if you recall, let's go back to our data set. We had a column that showed us bonus percentages, right? Bonus percentages. Now what if we want to actually show the bonus amount that should be given to each person? What is the bonus amount? Not just the percentage, the amount given to each person. And what's the total emolument that each person will receive? That is annual salary plus bonus amount. Okay, how can we do this with a pivot table? Now what a lot of people do actually is to do the calculation in the table, refresh, and then they have the column over here, right? But pivot table actually allows you to create what we call calculated columns. So calculated columns are what we call explicit measures. They are calculations in the pivot tables that cannot be found from the data set, right? You are calculating them using the fields you have from pivot table to create a new measure. A measure is basically a calculation that you've created. Okay, so something like this, sum of annual salary is a measure. Okay, but it only resides in this particular pivot table. When you create a new pivot table, you will not have sum of annual salary. So we call it an implicit measure. An explicit measure is a measure that you've created and it resides in something like the database. So regardless of which pivot table you find yourself in, that measure will always be available to you. So how do we create such measures? Okay, so to do this, we'll come to pivot table analyze. We come to fields, items, and sets. We create a calculated field. Calculated field. I think I said calculated column. It's actually called calculated field. Good. So over here, we call this bonus amount. Okay. And what's the formula for calculating the bonus amount? So bonus amount is basically the percentage bonus. So I click on this. I click insert field, and then I'm going to multiply this by annual salary. So you can double click on annual salary as well. So bonus percentage multiplied by annual salary. So you have that in place, right? Let me take this up and I'll click OK. Good. So now this gives you what? Bonus amount. Now this bonus amount, when I create a new pivot table, is going to be available for me to what? To use bonus amount, right? So it's telling me that annual salary is this much and bonus amount is what? Is that much. So I'm going to rename this. So yes, bonus amount. And I'm going to call this with annual salary. Okay, so annual salary already exists. So total annual salary. Good. Total annual salary and bonus amount. So if you sum these two up, right? If you sum these two up, this should give you the total amount paid. Let's show this in relation to the full name. Makes it easier. So these are the full names. This is the annual salary. This is the bonus amount. You can see that some people are not receiving any bonus. Let's see why. So I'm going to drag bonus to rows. Okay. Let me change. No subtitle. No subtitle. Good. So we have this is a full name. This is a bonus percentage that was given to each person. So you realize that some of them did not receive bonus percentages, and that's why they don't have a bonus amount, right? So quickly, PivotTable has done this calculation for you. You can use this to do your analysis. If I want to find out what the total amount each person is going to receive, all I need to do is go back. So PivotTable analyze. So field, items and sets. I come over here, select calculated field. Okay, so now I want to create what we call total amount. Okay, so what is the total amount? The total amount is actually going to be a sum. Okay, sum of annual salary, comma, and then bonus amount, close bracket, click OK. Okay, so this is the total amount. Just going to call it total amount. Take this off, click OK. Right, so we already have total amount over there, so I can just let me put a dot here just to distinguish it from what I have in the field. Okay, good. So we have here, so we have total annual salary, we have bonus amount, and we have what? Total amount. So this total amount represents the sum of these two, right? So when you sum these two up, you get what? This total amount. So with PivotTable, you can actually do calculations, right? From the data you have in your data set in the PivotTables to create what we call a calculated field, right? This calculated field helps you easily create calculation fields in your data set, right? And this calculation fields will actually go with you to any other pivot table you create as well. Great. Now, one more thing we're actually going to look at about pivot tables, and then we're going to bring the curtains down, is how to analyze multiple data sets. How to analyze multiple data sets, right? So over here, we have just one data set showing us our HR or our staff in the organization. Okay, now what we're going to do is we want to also look at the attendance. So I have a data sheet hidden over here. So I'm going to right click here, come to unhide, and then you have what? Attendance over here. Okay, so this is my attendance. I have my staff ID and I have what? Their time in. Use it as staff ID and time in, and this is what? This is data. So I'm going to actually try and tell who has been attending, who has not been attending, right? So let's do this. So first, like we always say, you need to ensure that your table or your data is a table. Standing in this, even though it looks like a table, it's not a table because we have a table design tab over here. So we come to insert, come to table over here. Okay, now what is going to happen is where's the data coming from? The range is selected, my table has headers, so I'm going to click OK. Good. So we have the dates, we have staff ID, and then we have what? The time in, when they actually showed up to work. Okay, great. Now we have this data over here. We have another data over here. I'm going to name this, come to table design, name this attendance. So that's my attendance sheet. Okay, and this is the data of the people who have been showing up every day to work. Good. Now what we're going to do is, because we are analyzing more than one data, we need to use what we call Power Pivot. Power Pivot. That's Excel's data modeling tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to create a data model. A data model is basically a connection of related tables, right? So this table, the attendance, is related to this table. How are they related? By these columns. So we see staff ID over here is the same as staff ID over here. Over here, we have the staff ID duplicating, right? Because people attend every day. So as they're attending, you see the same staff IDs will be duplicating the data set. But here, the staff ID is supposed to be unique, right? There should not be any duplicates in the data set. So we call this the dimension table, right? The dimension table is where you have a unique record of the primary key. And then here's is your facts table where you have duplicates. Okay, this is where the activities actually happen. Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to add these two tables to the data model. Now, and if you look at your tabs over here, you probably find Power Pivot. So Power Pivot is where we create the data model, right? If you don't have Power Pivot, all you need to do is come to data. So if you come to the data tab over here, if you're using at least 2016 under data tools, you see this. So go to Power Pivot window. So if you don't have Power Pivot as a tab, you need to come here. Then you see this green icon to go to the Power Pivot window. When you click here, okay, it's going to open the Power Pivot window as well as create a tab for you. So this is the Power Pivot window. This is where we are going to bring our tables over here for analysis, right? Once you've created this and then you close this, you should have a Power Pivot tab now. Okay, good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring our tables over here. We'll take attendance over there. So I'll click here, come to Power Pivot, and I'll select Add to Data Model. So Add to Data Model, and then attendance is going to be uploaded into the data model in the Power Pivot portal. I'll close this, come to Data, click on this, go to Power Pivot, and do the same, Add to Data Model. So over here, Power Pivot looks more or less like Excel. So you have your attendance sheet over here, which is the first table I added, and you have staff over here. So there are a number of things you can also do here: create measures, you can format, you can sort, and do a host of things. Now what we're going to do over here mainly is create the data model. So to create a data model, you're basically creating a relationship between the two tables. So we have the data view, we're coming to the diagram view. Good. Now over here, we need to establish a relationship between these two tables. What the relationship here is related by our staff ID. So you have staff ID here, you have staff ID there. So if I do this and connect it to that, the relationship is connected. Now you see 1 and you see what? An asterisk. So 1 here means that there's only one instance of each staff ID here. And then this asterisk means there is many instances of the staff IDs over here. So there are duplicates over here. So we call it a one-to-many relationship. Now one-to-many relationships are what PivotTables or Power Pivots write on. One-to-many relationship. Many-to-many relationship is not possible. You need a bridge table between the two of them. Once we have this established, all we need to do is close Power Pivot because we are done with our data model. So we can now create a pivot table that analyzes staff in relation to what the attendance. So I can close this guy, come here. So what this means is when I click here and I come to insert pivot table, you see pivot table from table or range, which is what we have been using, but now we can use from data model. So I click data model. I'm going to put my pivot table just here, this sheet. So existing sheet, right? So now you see I have two tables. I have attendance, right? And I have what? Staff. You see. So now I can analyze this staff by the attendance. If I come here and I take, let's say, full name, I put full name in rows, and then I come here and I take what? Time in. When do they show up? The time in here, columns. So now it's counting to see how many times each individual showed up. So I come to row labels, I can look at the bottom 10 to see which are the people who least showed up to the organization. So these are the people who least attended work or who least showed up. within the time frame you are looking at. Okay, great. Another analysis we can actually do is we can look at what the average time in was for each department. What the average time in was for each department. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this to create my new pivot table. I'm going to paste this down here, right? Now I'm going to take off full name, and then I'll come here and I'll place department rows. Okay, now I want to see the average time in. So I click here, value field settings. If I select average, it says we can't summarize this field with average because it is not a supported calculation for date data types. Okay, so for date data types, you can't calculate an average of the dates. So what can we do? So let's go to our Power Pivots and let's see what we can do. So in Power Pivot, to go back to your data model, when you come to the tab Power Pivot, you come to Manage. Okay, so you see your time in over here is showing as what? Dates. Now, it will be easy to do these calculations if we actually use a decimal. You know, date and time can be shown as what? Decimals, right? So let's change the data type from dates here to decimal. Okay, so time in the data model is going to be shown as a decimal, and then we can actually format this in Excel as what? Time. So to go back to Excel, I'm just going to click here. Okay, now let's try this again. Click this, value field settings, average. Okay, great. Now we have what? Our average time expressed in what? In decimals. So we can double click on this, and then we come to number format. We come to time. Select the time. Okay. And it shows you averagely what time what each particular department comes in. Okay, so you can tell that the departments that show up early are what? Accounting, 8:58, engineering, 8:58, what? Then you have what? Marketing, 8:58. Sales is 8:59 averagely. Then we have what? HR and IT showing up 9 a.m. Right? So these analyses are all possible because you are using what? Power Pivots to combine two tools together. So I hope you found this very useful. I hope you're able to get a lot of insight and understanding on how pivot tables work, how you can do calculations in pivot tables, how you can show value as a percentage of one thing or the other, and how you can analyze multiple tables using Power Pivots. So thank you very much for joining me for this session. Thank you very much for being part of this virtual training. I hope at the end of this course, you'll be able to pick up a lot of tips and tricks to help you be productive at work. So thank you and see you in the next video.
If this video was helpful and you would like to receive more of these videos directly on your WhatsApp, you can send ad to this WhatsApp number. We'll add you to our broadcast list so you receive our videos directly. You can also visit our YouTube channel, Finance Skills Hub. All our old videos are here. Please subscribe for notification of new videos, or connect with us on any of these social media handles. Thank you so much for watching.